Why do I have 4 of these? Probably for the same reason you have more than 1 pair of these, which is that we put them somewhere and we lose them. And so we get a spare pair. And then we lose the spare pair and we get another pair. And then next thing you know, you have 4 of them. Whatever the reason is, all of these, plus other tools with blades, are getting sharpened today. And that's what this video is about. So first we're gonna go through what equipment you need to clean and sharpen any of your garden cutting tools other than something with a serrated blade, which I'm not going to get into. So the first step is going to be cleaning. So at the simple end of the spectrum, you can go to the hardware store and pick up a little bit of 3-in-1 oil and some steel wool, and that will work great. You can also get something like a specific product made by a brand. By the way, you can clearly use those products on any brand of tool. It's not brand specific. Felco has a cleaning spray. My tool of choice for this is the Niwaki Crean mate. These are 2 sizes of it that I have. This is essentially a very soft pumice stone. Every time I place an order from Niwaki, I just get more of these because I use these things all the time. Then you're going to need something to sharpen your tools with. This is something I used to use a lot. This is called Speedy Sharp. Good to have in your pocket. If you have really big like chunks out of your blades, you might need a diamond file. I would prefer to have a smaller one than this, but this is what I have, so this is what I use. Or you can use a sharpening stone, which is what I like to do now. You can pick up one of those at the hardware store too. I use the ones from Niwaki as well. This is a 1000 grit. They also come in a 3000 grit and I think like a 500 grit or something. So they're coarse, medium, and fine. Honestly, this 1000 grit is the one I use for 98% of things. And then you're going to need something to lubricate and protect the blades. That's where you can go back to a light oil like the 3-in-1. I use the camellia oil from Niwaki, which comes in a bottle like this. And then you fill up this thing, which I liken to a bingo dauber, to just coat your blades nicely with that. Other brands have other products. Anything that sort of protects and lubricates your blades to prevent future rust is what you're looking for here. So I have never taken hand pruners or secateurs apart to clean them. I have never found that there's gunk built up in the middle enough that I can't get them clean and sharpened properly without taking them apart. Seems like an added complication to me. You certainly can take any higher quality secateurs apart. They're made to have replaceable parts. So you can certainly do that if you would like to do that. I just choose not to because I don't see a need for it. So the first step is to clean off any rust and grime that's on them. This is where I really think this Crean mate comes in handy. This is the original size of it. This is, I think this might have been a special edition one. They're sold out of them right now, but I find this one easier to use. It's just a little smaller. It's easier to get into the little crevices there. You just dip it in some water and rub away with a fair amount of, you know, there's a little oomph there. And I'm not trying to get these looking like brand new or anything. I mean, if you got them looking brand new, then what excuse would you have to keep buying them and own 4 of them? But I am working to get as much of that rust out and certainly any grime, although none of these are that grimy. So I think more than any other garden tool, people are most enthusiastic and loyal to their chosen brand or model of hand pruners. And I get it. It's probably the tool we use the most in the garden. It's always literally, you know, right at hand. But that's why I don't recommend that people give hand pruners as a gift to anyone unless someone has requested a very specific model, because it's such an individual decision. They have to feel right in your hand. It's all about the feel. So sometimes hand pruners that have been a little bit abused will end up with pits in the blade. And that's where something like a file comes in, because you really have to correct that before you can go through any sharpening. So find yourself a nice hand position where your hand is protected from cutting yourself with the blade. It helps, I think, to sort of brace it on something so that you've got a really nice firm, you can get some pressure on there. And that's where you need to spend some time working out these sort of chunks that are out of the blade. Once you're satisfied with how that's looking, then you want to take your file in the back and you just want to give it maybe 2 strokes off the back just to take down any burrs that you've created there. Then once you've done that kind of corrective work on a blade, if it needs it, you can move on to sort of the regular sharpening process. So obviously these are all bypass pruners. They're really the only pruners you need. I don't think anybody really needs anvil pruners. So when we're talking about bypass pruners, this is the blade that we're working on, the outside edge right here. So if you're using a sharpening stone, you want to get it a little wet first. So you've got a little lubrication there. And in the case of this Niwaki one, I'm going to use this concave edge on the bottom, which helps prevent getting a flat spot in a rounded blade. Now, when I get to something like these blades, which are straight, in this case, I can use the flat side of this. So again, brace yourself, get yourself somewhere where this can be really sturdy. So the angle you want to do this at is not flat against the blade like that. You want to be up about 15 degrees or so. And then it's just long sweeping strokes. It's not like little sawing back and forth. Sometimes on some of these tools, like the Speedy Sharp, sometimes you might actually do this going this way towards you, like this. That's how I would use a tool like that. But I feel like with a big sharpening stone like this, I prefer to work going out. So you want to work along the entire blade, but you're going to need to concentrate a little bit extra at the tip. The tip is always the place that gets dullest first because you're using it. Because how many times have you just cut something with just the end of a secateurs? So you're going to want to go back and give some extra attention to the tip. Can kind of stop and feel carefully, you know, where you're at. You can feel pretty well, especially if you check before you start. You can really compare what the blade feels like later. And if you sharpen your pruners regularly, it's not going to take that long. And then you want to flip over and you want to give the back side maybe a couple of swipes just to, again, take off any burrs that have been raised there. Now you can go to another stone. For instance, this is this 3000 grit stone, and you can kind of hone the blade. It's basically honing, which is essentially polishing almost. And you can do that. Honestly, I don't do that. I don't think it's necessary. But you do want to get this inside edge right here as best you can. This is not necessarily sharpening. This is more about, and this is, by the way, this is where I use the rounded part on the other end. This is more about just like getting any gunk off there. There's no blade there, so you don't need that sharp. But just want a little bit, if there's anything abrading on that. And then same thing, you know, on the back side of that one. With everything sharpened, we move on to the lubrication step. If you're using something like 3-in-1 oil, be cognizant of not gooping it up too much. Just a little bit on the blades, and then maybe take a soft cloth and just kind of rub it on there. With this camellia oil, I just kind of wipe it on here. I do take a little and work it around the screw as well. But really the oil is meant to protect the blades, keep them from rusting. And if you feel like you really need more oil in there, you can always take a drop of oil and put it in there, work it back and forth, and then take a soft cloth and wipe off any excess. But you know, too much oil will goop up the works a little bit. There you go, one hand pruner all ready for gardening season. This guy is particularly gunked up because I primarily use it with boxwoods, and those have a little bit of resin in them. It's good to actually clean your pruners in the middle of that, kind of wipe them off to avoid that resin gooping up the works, but I clearly didn't do that the last time I used these. So these will need a good cleaning with the Crean Mate. And I think you can see how much gunk it pulls off of those blades and rust. And then these are the shears I use for pruning boxwood. And this also is quite gunked up in the middle. And these blades are more susceptible to rust because particularly when I'm pruning boxwood, I will disinfect the blades in between boxwood so I'm not transferring. If anything would have an issue, I wouldn't be transferring that. And almost anything you use to disinfect your blades is also can cause a little bit of rust on your blades. It's not that big of a deal. Just take care of your tools, more often then. So all of the other tools that I've been sharpening have a curved blade, so that same technique applies. However, this tool has straight edge blades on it, and there are 2 on each side. So we need to sharpen the outside edges of both sides of these. So I just do whatever I can to try to, prop this somewhere so it's not going to move much. And then I'm using the flat side of the sharpening stone this time because we have a flat blade. I have seen people hold these like this and work on this. My hand is not big enough for that to work, so I don't hold it that way. But if there's a more comfortable way for you to hold it, as long as you're not going to slice your fingers, go for it. And then flip it over and just hit this back side of the blade twice. Other than being a little gunked up, this tool is probably in better shape than anything else because it's probably the tool I use the least or close to the least because I only use this for pruning boxwoods. I don't use it for pruning anything else. And because I sharpen it basically anytime I'm going to be pruning something, because if you are doing like some kind of hedge pruning kind of thing where you're going to be cutting leaves open, you want really, really, really sharp tools for that because bruising a leaf is bad. You want a really nice, clean cut if that's possible. And then this tool is extra satisfying to oil just because it's got those nice, wide, flat blades. Now, if I wanted extra credit, because this is a wooden handle tool, I would wash these handles and then I do a little bit of linseed oil on them. Honestly, this thing's in pretty good shape. It's not even that dirty, so I'm not going to do that. There we go, a whole bunch of tools sharpened and ready for gardening season. One of my favorite jobs to do in winter, 1, because there's actually time to do it, but 2, because everything is so nice when you use it again. So if you have a hand pruner that you feel just isn't doing the job, unless the blades are actually damaged or something in it is actually damaged, maybe just try giving it a really good sharpening before you call it quits with that one and buy a new one. Okay, I hope you found that helpful. If you did, give this video a like and subscribe. It would mean so much to me. And stay tuned because soon we are going to be cleaning and sharpening everything from spades to trowels to hoes. All right, have a great day in your garden. We'll see you soon.